Jason J. Gould was a leading American railroad developer and speculator. He was long vilified as an archetypal robber baron, whose success at business made him the ninth richest U.S. citizen in history, although some modern historians working from primary sources have discounted his portrayal by the contemporary press. Conde Copyright Nast Portfolio ranked Gould as the 8th worst American CEO of all time. Early life and education. Jason Gould was born in Roxbury, New York to Mary Moore and John Burr Gould. His maternal grandfather, Alexander T. Moore, was a businessman, and his great-grandfather John Moore was a Scottish immigrant who founded the town of Mooresville, New York. J. Gould studied at local schools and the Hobart Academy in Hobart, Delaware County, New York. Early career. His principal was credited as getting him a job working as a bookkeeper for a blacksmith. A year later the blacksmith offered him half interest in the blacksmith shop, which he sold to his father during the early part of 1854. Gould devoted himself to private study, emphasizing surveying and mathematics. In 1854, Gould surveyed and created maps of the Ulster County, New York area. In 1856 he published History of Delaware County, and Border Wars of New York, which he had spent several years writing. In 1856, Gould entered a partnership with Zadok Pratt to create a tanning business in Pennsylvania in what would become Goodsboro. Eventually, he bought out Pratt, who retired. In 1856, Gould entered another partnership with Charles Mortimer Leop, a son-in-law of Gideon Lee, and one of the leading leather merchants in the United States at the time. Leop and Gould was a successful partnership until the Panic of 1857. Leop lost all his money, while Gould took advantage of the opportunity of the depreciation of property value and bought up former partnership properties for himself. After the death of Charles Leop, the Goodsboro tannery became a disputed property. Leop's brother-in-law, David W. Lee, who was also a partner in Leop and Gould, took armed control of the tannery. He believed that Gould had cheated the Leop and Lee families in the collapse of the business. Eventually, Gould took physical possession, but was later forced to sell his shares in the company to Lee's brother. Railroad investing. In 1859 Gould began speculative investing by buying stock in small railways. Gould's father-in-law Daniel S. Miller was credited with introducing the younger man to the railroad industry, when he suggested that Gould help him save his investment in the Rutland and Washington Railroad in the Panic of 1857. Gould purchased stock for 10 cents on the dollar, which left him in control of the company. Through the Civil War era, he did more speculation on railroad stocks in New York City. In 1863 he was appointed manager of the Rensselaer and Saratoga Railroad. The Erie Railroad encountered financial troubles in the 1850s, despite receiving loans from financiers Cornelius Vanderbilt and Daniel Drew. The Erie entered receivership in 1859 and was reorganized as the Erie Railway. J. Gould, Drew and James Fisk engaged in stock manipulations known as the Erie War, with the result that in the summer of 1868 Drew, Fisk, and Vanderbilt lost control of the Erie, while Gould became its president. Tweed Ring. It was during the same period that Gould and Fisk became involved with Tammany Hall, the New York City political ring. They made Boss Tweed a director of the Erie Railroad, and Tweed, in return, arranged favorable legislation for them. Tweed and Gould became the subjects of political cartoons by Thomas Nast in 1869. In October 1871, when Tweed was held on $1 million bail, Gould was the chief bondsman. Black Friday. In August 1869, Gould and Fisk began to buy gold in an attempt to corner the market, hoping that the increase in the price of gold would increase the price of wheat such that Western farmers would sell, causing a great amount of shipping of breadstuffs eastward, increasing freight business for the Erie Railroad. During this time, Gould used contacts with President Ulysses S. Grant's brother-in-law, Abel Corbin, to try to influence the president and his Secretary-General Horace Porter. These speculations in gold culminated in the Panic of Black Friday, on September 24, 1869, when the premium over face value on a gold double eagle fell from 62% to 35%. Gould made a small profit from this operation, but lost it to subsequent lawsuits. The Gould Corner established Gould's reputation in the press as an all-powerful figure who could drive the market up and down at will. Lord Gordon Gordon. In 1873 Gould attempted to take control of the Erie Railroad by recruiting foreign investments from Lord Gordon Gordon, whom he believed was a cousin of the wealthy Campbells looking to buy land for immigrants. He bribed Gordon Gordon with $1 million in stock. But Gordon Gordon was an imposter and cashed the stock immediately. Gould sued Gordon Gordon. The case went to trial in March 1873. In court, Gordon Gordon gave the names of the Europeans whom he claimed to represent, and was granted bail while the references were checked. He fled to Canada, where he convinced authorities that the charges against him were false. After failing to convince or force Canadian authorities to hand over Gordon Gordon, Gould and his associates, which included 2 future governors of Minnesota and 3 future members of Congress, attempted to kidnap him. The group snatched him successfully, but they were stopped and arrested by the Northwest Mounted Police before they could return to the United States. The kidnappers were put in prison and refused bail. This led to an international incident between the United States and Canada. Upon learning that the kidnappers were not given bail, Governor Horace Austin of Minnesota demanded their return. He put the local militia on a state of full readiness. Thousands of Minnesotans volunteered for a full military invasion of Canada. After negotiations, the Canadian authorities released the kidnappers on bail. The incident resulted in Gould losing any possibility of taking control of Erie Railroad. Peak career. After being forced out of the Erie Railroad, in his 40s Gould started to build up a system of railroads in the Midwest and West. Beginning in 1879, he gained control of 4 western railroads, including the Union Pacific, which had completed part of the Transcontinental Railroad, and the Missouri Pacific Railroad. By 1880, he controlled 10,000 miles of railway, about 1/9 of the length of rail in the United States at that time, and, by 1882, he had controlling interest in 15% of the country's tracks. Because the railroads were making enormous profits and had control of rate setting, his wealth increased dramatically. When Gould withdrew from management of the Union Pacific in 1883 amidst political controversy over its debts to the federal government, he realized a large profit for himself. He obtained a controlling interest in the Western Union Telegraph Company, and, after 1881, in the elevated railways in New York City. From 1868 to 1888, Gould was connected with many of the largest railway financial operations in the United States. During the Great Southwest Railroad strike of 1886, he hired strikebreakers. According to trade unionists, he said at the time, "I can hire 1/2 of the working class to kill the other half." Personal life. Gould was a member of West Presbyterian Church at 31 West 42nd Street. It later merged with Park Presbyterian to form West Park Presbyterian. Marriage. He married Helen Day Miller in 1863. The couple had 6 children: George J. Gould I, married Edith M. Kingdon; Edwin Gould I, married Sarah Cantine Shreddy; Helen Gould, married Finley Johnson Shepherd; Howard Gould, married Viola Catherine Clemens on October 12, 1898. And later married actress Greet Mosham in 1937. Anna Gould, married Paul Ernest Boniface, Comte de Castellane and divorced. Second, married Har copyright Lie de Talleyrand par copyright Rigard, 5th Duke de Talleyrand, 5th Duke de Dino, 4th Herzog von Sagan, and Prince de Sagan. Frank J. Gould, married Helen Margaret Kelly. Then Edith Kelly. And then Florence Lacaze. Death. Gould died of tuberculosis on December 2, 1892, and was interred in the Woodlawn Cemetery, the Bronx, New York. His fortune was conservatively estimated at $72 million for tax purposes, which he willed in its entirety to his family. At the time of his death, Gould was a benefactor in the reconstruction of the Reformed Church of Roxbury, New York, now known as the J. Gould Memorial Reformed Church. It is located within the Main Street Historic District and listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 1988. The family mausoleum was designed by Francis O'Hara. Legacy equals dramatic representations equals Jay Gould is a key character in the 2014 historical murder mystery novel The New Colossus by Marshall Goldberg, published by Diversion Books, in which reporter Nellie Bly is assigned by publisher Joseph Pulitzer to investigate the 1887 death of poet Emma Lazarus. He is a character in the final episode of the Adams Chronicles miniseries. The program discusses his activities with respect to the Union Pacific Railroad and Charles Francis Adams too. See also, Lyndhurst, his country estate on the Hudson River, Gould. Notes. Further reading, Death of Jay Gould in the Brooklyn Eagle, Klein, Maury. The Life and Legend of Jay Gould. The Johns Hopkins University Press. ISBN 978-0801857713. Grodzinski, Julius. Jay Gould, His Business Career, 1867–1892. Arno Press. Pages 627. ISBN 978-1258168,681. Josephson, Matthew. The Robber Barons, The Great American Capitalists, 1861–1901. New York, Harcourt, Brace and World. Hilferding, Rudolph. Finance Capital, A Study of the Latest Phase of Capitalist Development. New York, Routledge and Kagan Paul. ISBN 978-0415436649. Renehan, Edward J. The Dark Genius of Wall Street, The Misunderstood Life of Jay Gould, King of the Robber Barons. New York, Basic Books. ISBN 0-465-06885-5. Morris, Charles of the Tycoons, How Andrew Carnegie, John D. Rockefeller, Jay Gould, and J.P. Morgan Invented the American Supereconomy. New York, Holt. ISBN 0-8050-7599-2. Kotz, David M. Neoliberalism and Financialization. Amherst, University of Massachusetts. George Gould marries. New York Times. September 15, 1886. Howard Gould marries. New York Times. October 13, 1898. Howard Gould dies here at 88. Last surviving son of Jay Gould, rail financier, a Euro yachtsman, auto racer. New York Times. September 15, 1959. Gordon, John S. The Great Game, The Emergence of Wall Street as a World Power, 1653 Euro 2000. Scribner. ISBN 978-0684832876. Jay Gould, A Revisionist Interpretation. Accessed May 3, 2014. External links, excerpts from Gould's New York Times obituary by the Iowa City Daily Citizen, Finn Dargrave, Jay Gould, photo from the Library of Congress's George Grantham Bain Collection, History of Delaware County and Border Wars of New York.